Hi there and welcome. My name's Sarah Sayers and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator from Surrey in the UK. I have been stamping for longer than I care to remember, but I've been a Stampin' Up demonstrator for the last 9.5 years, and I absolutely love it. I go under the name of Kiss Creative. The Kiss stands for Keep It Simply Stunning, and it's actually came around from the name of my classes that my lovely customers come along to. So today I wanted to show you for World Card Making Day some tips and techniques for using masks. There's a variety of different masks you can use, but I thought it would be fun to show you a few ways that you can mask and create some fun ideas. I thought I'd use this lovely set, Seasons of Fun, because it gives you plenty of ideas on what to use. This is going to be a bit shiny because I'm having to record this at night due to work commitments. But I think you'll have fun once you see what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is to take a piece of, there we go, cardstock. I've created a tent fold card, and in order to I love blends, so in order to sort of stop it bleeding through, I've just cut another piece of basic white cardstock, the same size as the front of my card. We're going to take, I thought we'd use, as it's coming to that season, dare I mention the C word yet, Christmas? I thought we'd use this really adorable little girl dragging behind this rather bedraggled looking Christmas tree. I'm going to take my Memento Tuxedo Black. It's very blends friendly ink, and I love it for when I'm using my blends. I love using my blends, but I just thought it would be great to show you some techniques to add to that colouring that doesn't involve lots of layers of card. This time of year we want to create cards that perhaps aren't creating lots of bulk. So I'm lining my card up against my grid paper. That allows me to then look at the grid paper there, and I'm stamping towards the bottom of the page, as you'll see here. Give that a good press down, so it looks, and there we go, got a nice image. So there's our image. We're going to give a little bit of masking. So there's a few ways you can mask. My tried and trusted is to use post-it notes. They're great. You can easily mask areas. The only thing I'll say, that you tend to only be able to use them once, and there is some difficulty in where you put the mask because there's only a tiny bit of the post-it note that's actually got the stick on it. What I found much better, and these are post-it notes, is the post-it note super sticky. Now, whereas these only have a small bit of stick on them, these actually have only a little bit that doesn't have stick on them, and that's got some very handy little cross hatching on it, and the rest is all sticky. So these are absolutely fabulous for making masks. So we're going to use those. The other thing that I have that's tried and tested, I use the post-it labelling cover-up tape. This is like a low tack tape. It's sort of it is like the same paper weight as post-it notes, but you can tear it off, and it comes in this handy holder, and it's got like a nice serrated edge, so you can get the lengths that you want. And those are the items that I'm going to use today. So first things first, I'm going to take my ink again. I'm going to create a nice mask. Now, this is where it doesn't have to be too precise, your stamping, but we're just going to stamp. And I'm going to make sure that that non-sticky bit is at the bottom. And thankfully, this stamp fits perfectly. So let's get those out of the way. And then we're going to take our snips and we're going to chop this out. Now, you can see this is quite an intricate die. I'm not too worried about most of this element being covered, so I just want to cover the elements that are that need to be. So in this case I'm just going to do the bag and the sleigh. And you'll see what I mean when we come to do our colouring. So I'm just going to mask that area off first, because whatever happens here, there's no way you're going to be able to cut that out intricately enough. So you're looking for the large areas. Can you see how lovely and tacky this is? I'm going to do the same with the star. And this paper is just so beautifully thin, it cuts really easily, which is great. Let me just pop that off there. Now, when you've made the efforts to cut all these out, don't throw them away, because we spent all our time cutting this out. And when you're cutting them, another little tip is cut, I would say, either deep inside if the stamped inked up areas are quite thick, sort of try and cut through the middle. That's not how we would normally cut out our images, but in this instance you actually want to not have the outer edge with any, you don't want to create a halo, so we're just kind of cut slightly inside. So grab this, and then I'm going to take, I don't know where I've put them for a minute, so I'm just going to take my tweezers and just pop those on there. There we go. And then last but not least, I did pick the most complicated image, of course, but she is so cute. And again, I'm going to cut quite a way into her fluffy hat, because then when we do what we're going to be doing, the next step, you'll see why. And then again, I'm not going to be cutting every single hair strand out here. I'm just going for the big areas. So I'm going to cut her little mitten out. Don't forget to make sure you're cutting right on that black line. Otherwise you will get a little halo, as I say, when we actually add our colour. Then I'm just going to cut around these little boots. I love these little boots. So I'll bring some of that stickiness away. There we go. The nice thing is, once you've done this, you can reuse these. One, it's still sticky, you can, and as long as you keep them in a nice secure place, and I've got a nice little tip for you for that one as well, you can pretty much get away with using this quite a few times, as long as you don't use sort of really clashing colours. So if you're going to use a blue and then a red, it's going to, or a green, it's going to take those colours, because this will be left with some ink on it. It may well start to muddy up your blending, but you'll see in a second what I mean. So for this hair here, these are just strands, so I'm going to cut up and then round this larger one. You're not going to notice this once I've cut and made this up. There we go. And then you're going to pop this straight down onto, oh, there we go. How cute is that? It looks quite pretty on its own, doesn't it? But we're not going to stay with that. As I said, I also love this labelling tape. So what I wanted to do is show you another way that you can mask. So we're going to keep these really simple cards. So I'm just going to take, again, it's really easy to measure on here what size you want. And what I want to do again is use my grid paper to line up. And what I'm going to do is go in 2 squares. I've lined the edge of my card up, 2 squares in on the grid paper. And just line that down and pop that down. Again, I'm going to do exactly the same again on the other side. This time I'm going to move this over because it's not quite sitting on that grid paper. Line that up and then pop the next piece down. So we're now creating a lovely border around the edge of your paper. Let's go across the top. I'll take my snips and that's just stuck down, but easy to lift off again. Very low tax, it's not going to be getting in the way. Again, doesn't matter you're lifting this up. We're just going to again put this across the bottom, line that up, and then 2 squares up. Oh, wrong way round. That's what happens when you try and record it in the evening. There we go. Right. I've already tried 3 times to record in the daytime, but we have building works going on in the road, and oh, it's just too noisy. I can't hear myself think, so I thought we'll do it this way. It's much easier. There we go. Right, so we've got a lovely framed element. So what we're going to do now is take a blending brush, and I'm going to take the Real Red. It seems quite festive, quite Christmassy, but what you want to do is make sure that you keep this quite dry. So I'm just going to tap off. I can see I've got some colour in there in the lid, so I'm not going to add any more. And I quite often will tap off my blending brush when I'm putting ink onto here, just to try and make sure I've not got the ink pad too sodden. We're going to start off the frame as well, and then going in, we're just going to go in gently and very softly add some colour. But see how easy that was using the blending brush. It's very nice, but what you want to do is build the colour up slowly. So we're going to start off, we're going to create a darker element at the top, and then we're going to lighten this down. So now I'm going to take this, oh, where did that come from? There we go. So you can see how important it is. I'm just going to work out where that's coming from. No, don't know. Got a little shooting star on there. Try and blend that out if I can, but if not, we'll make a feature of it. So again, I'm trying to make the darker here. So you want to try and avoid those if you can. I'm actually just going to try and grab my glue rubber and just see if I can just take that down a little bit. There we go. See if we can go over that again and add. There we go. Keeping it real, guys. So again, I'm just going to go into the lid for now and just pick up a little bit more ink, and we're adding darker at the top and then we're fading it down at the bottom. So I'm going to now add some more ink. You can see how heavy that is, so I really want to stamp that out. It's a really juicy pad. I'm going to probably, yeah, just make sure that it's all. The last thing we want to do is be adding big smears across the page, but I just want to make that nice and dark across the top. There we go. So it really is less is more. Try and keep it controlled and as light as you can. as you go down that page. There we go. So it's very light at the bottom. Okay, right, that's our blending done. And we've pretty much created our card base. So I'm going to take these elements off now. So I'll start with that bottom, and you get this, wow, as soon as you take this off, you get this beautiful, lovely edge that's crisp and clean. And that's the beauty of this tape, as it creates a lovely crisp clean image. Obviously I need to put my teeth back in, but then you get this wonderful beauty. Now what I'm going to do is I keep my masks, once I've made them, inside my stamp set, but actually I add them to this wax paper that the labels come on. So what I'm just going to do is just pull this off with my snips. You could use your tape, your pick tool, whatever's there to hand. Pull that off, and now you've got a nice white space for colouring. There we go. So just treat these quite, you know, pull them off quite gently, because you don't want to rip them, because then you've got to cut one out again. But how lovely is that? So sweet. So we can pop that back in there, and then I've got it to use next time I want to. And because that I put it into the inside of the sleeve, keeps it nice and flat. There we go. How cute is he, she? I don't know which, what should we make today? So I grabbed some blends. I picked up some Poppy Parade. I just wanted to create a slightly more orange look, so we could stand out against the background. I've picked up some Pool Party, because I always like that with Poppy Parade. Some Mint Macaron, because I just think those colours go beautifully. And then I've got some neutrals here. So I'm going to start off at the bottom with the boots, and I'm going to create some little, they look like little Ugg boots, so I thought I'd make some grey Ugg boots. I'm just going to add in some colour at the back, and what I'm going to do is go for a storybook illustrative style of colouring, which basically means I give it a name for something that, when you look in the sort of especially children's storybooks, you see that not everything is coloured in. You get little bits of white, add highlight. It's almost splotchy, like someone's almost tried to watercolour with a solid colour. And that's what I love, that idea for blends. I think it's so cute. And that's what I'm going to do here. What it means is essentially is that I don't have to worry about colouring everything in. So let's look at the coat now. So I'm going to go over with some Pool Party. Again, just keeping this very light. I wanted a nice contrast with that red. And there is, as I say, I'm using Poppy Parade only because I think it will provide a nice contrast to the real red that's behind. It does does look a little odd having that red, but I think it adds a little bit of atmosphere to the card. And again, I'm just going to go in with the dark. By using the sort of storybook style, you're not blending as such, but you're still going to add in your sort of cast shadow. So you're still going to have those shadows underneath the scarf and underneath the pockets, and perhaps round underneath that scarf, under the arm. But you're going to leave it sort of as it is. So it's a much more what I call naive style of colouring. Right, what should we do next? Let's do the bottoms. So I picked up some ivory and the bronze, and I thought I'd use the ivory for the face. Again, just leaving some of those bits white, so you've got, it looks a little bit like highlights. And again, I'm adding the bronze I'm going to use as the bottom of the little sledge that this happy person is pulling along. Now, I actually left this bit free. I haven't coloured it. And what I'm going to do is just add a little tiny bit of shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the bottom here, like, and then I'm going to come down below. And again, I'm just using a sort of splotch technique. Now I'm coming out the frame that we use just to create the floor. And I'm almost using sort of like a dashes and dots. So that's going to then draw your eye down the page. Let's create the bag. So I'm using some soft suede. I'm just going to colour that cross hatching very lightly, and then just a little bit under the bag top. And then we can just, again, just naively colour in all around that bag. There we go. And because you're not colouring every single element, that white's popping through and creating some really interesting highlights. Love it. Let's add colour our little star. And let's add some little gold buttons to the front of this coat. I think he looks really, I think it's a he, I think it's a boy, but if I was a girl, I wouldn't mind wearing a pool party top either. So let's add some stripes. I'm going to add some green stripes. I'm going to go for the mint macaron, and I'm just adding the light at the moment, and I'm going to colour those little stripy trousers in as well. And then let's add some stripes. Now that's not looking very dark against the card, so what I'm going to do is just add a little flick from the top of each stripe of the dark, and then on the bottom here I'm just going to add a little bit at the bottom, and on the left here. There we go. And that gives you a nice little bit of contrast. Well, let's just add a little bit of cast shadow to that. Those legs. So we're not blending them again. Where there's definite cast shadow, we're going to use those to our advantage. And then I'm going to colour in those mittens. Now you get that really bright pop of that poppy parade, and it's just gorgeous. I'm going to go back in with the light one now, and just pull that colour into the middle there. And I'm just going to, I'm just going to leave our storybook style white bit in the middle, and I'm going to add, again, I'm not being precise, I'm just doing little flicks across the page there, so not all of it's being coloured in. And then we're going to add, again, just some flicks in of the red, keeping it quite blotchy, however you want to call it. And then this time I'm going to add a little flick from the bottom. That's going to create, because you've got the dark of the mint macaron at the top and then the dark of the red at the bottom, it's going to create a slight 3D effect. This one, however, I'm just going to add, so we've got shadow looking down, and the same on the bottom of the scarf. And I think that looks super cute. So let's finish off, go back to that mint macaron, and I'm just going to add in a little bit of grey mint macaron to those very bedraggled looking branches. Just a little hint of colour, and then we can finish, because this is a fun little Christmas card. Let's add a little bit of colour in there and a little bit of sparkle. Wouldn't be Christmas without some sparkle. I'm just adding some to the Christmas tree. Then let's give him or her a nice glittery hat. Just a touch on the hat, and then maybe the scarf, just to add a little bit of fun. Now you could add a little bit to the floor, especially if it was snow, it would look quite fun, but I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm just going to add another layer. I always try and add, the more you go over it, the more it deposits those lovely little bits of sparkle. Just realised I've just missed it. I always find I've missed a bit. I've missed the bottom of the scarf, so I'm just going to go back in there and just add that in. There we go. And I've also forgotten to colour his hair, so I'm going to use the light soft suede and just add some little flicks, just tiny bit. You don't need to do much. And now you can see why I wasn't too worried about cutting all that hair out, because it doesn't matter. Let's add a sentiment. Now this Seasons of Fun doesn't come with sentiments, so I thought it might be quite fun to use one of these sentiments from the Words of Cheer set. So I'm going to use this Sending You Cheer. So let's grab a little block. And then we're going to add our sentiment. I'm just going to pop this in black. So we've got all this lovely, wonderful, clear space. And this is going to be so easy to post. I'm just making sure I've got that all nicely lined up. There we go. And there's our card topper, and we can add that to our card base. So I purely and simply, if we'd done this as a single 10th fold card, you can see where I would get that leakage coming through. So that's why I do an extra piece that's cut exactly the same size as the top. I thought I got glue out that was full. There we go. Apologies for this is, I have to confess now I'm near the end, my first ever video. I've always done Facebook Lives and had to live with the consequences, so this is quite fun. So I'm going to leave that like that, but you could easily add some sequins or other fun elements. I just quite like the style that this is. I like the way that it sits, and I like the fact that it's quite simple and fun. So here's some other ideas for you. Oh, actually, while we're at it, let me show you another little trick. You can take the tape that you've already used, pop it inside. This one's a little bit more tricky to line up. So actually I'm lining it up against the outer line there. Then I'm going to use this one here. And then we're going to take that ink that we had before, and I'm just going to gently add some here to the bottom of the inside of the card. And you can do the same. Oh, I pulled it the wrong way around. There you go, you get a lovely mask. Now I've got extra pieces, but you can see how easy it is to reuse those masks over and over again, as long as you're sort of using the same colour. And then you can stamp your wishing you a joyful Christmas or whatever message you'd like to inside. So that's another little tip for your masking. Okay, let me show you some other ideas before I go. So here's using the same set. I started off by, this is my prototype, this is what I started off with. So this is pool parting. Can you see when I did this, I realised that if you're going over and over at the edges, you can create a lot of build up. So this is Pool Party. There's a lot of it. It's nice and atmospheric for this card. And again, I've coloured it with blends. This time I've added a few sequins, but that's quite a fun one. And then also just had to do it, didn't I? Had to make a Halloween one. So this one I've used two colours. So I've used Pale Papaya, and then at the top I've added a little bit of Pumpkin Pie just to give it a little bit more pow. And that creates this beautiful fun. And then again, just use that Wink of Stella just to add a little bit of sparkle. It's all fun. So there's your cards. So you've got a nice trio of cards using the same technique from that stamp set. The other things you can do is using that tape or using the post-it notes is to create partial masks. So rather than just make a frame, you can just use the tape across the page. And then again, this is a nice clean and simple card. I've done this as a side fold tent. Same idea, but just gone the other way. This is Misty Moonlight and then Coastal Cabana, and it's merged in together to give this lovely Under the Sea. And then I've left the masks on and then stamped on top. So I'm stamping within the gap, and then I've added the sentiments afterwards and added a little punched blue whale. Again, lots of Wink of Stella on there just to give a little bit of fun. You could also use the post-it notes, these fully sticky post-it notes. And what you can do is tear, and I've left this here, just tear one in half and then use it top and bottom to create a little channel through which you can stamp. So this one is straight, this one is on its own, and it's a really fun technique. So you can just grab your colours and just add whatever colour takes your fancy. So here I'm using a little bit of orange. You just got to make sure that that mask stays in place, and then perhaps add a little bit of, oh, wrong one, a little bit of yellow, get a little bit more yellow in there. I'm going to take some crushed curry, and just add that at the bottom, and you can see how you can create a lovely channel. And then you can take a stamp set like the Fernery perhaps, or Feather Fern, I always call it Fernery, don't ask me why, and Enjoy the Moment, something like that, and you can add stamp in that, you can stamp in that and create some really fun effects. Quick and simple cards, which you don't even have to have the sentiment straight away. So it means that you can have a batch of pretty looking cards. I think this looks amazing in greens, purples and pinks look fun, and you can do sort of things like bottles of perfume or sweets or things like that. There's lots of fun ways that you can use your masking. I would love to see what you make, so do let me know. And pop over to my Facebook site and perhaps show me what you've made on World Card Making Day. Thank you very much for joining it. I hope you've enjoyed my little tutorial, and I hope it's inspired you to get those post-it notes or post-it tape out and start using your blending brushes to mask in a little bit different way. Thank you very much for watching me. It's Sarah Sayers and Kiss Creative. Bye. Mwah.